Thank you so much, everybody. It's an enormous honor for me to be here, to honor Project Home, and to honor especially my very good friends Lee and John Middleton. I'm the president now of the World Bank, and many of you may not know what we do. We don't have a branch here in Philadelphia, actually. Our job is really quite simple. Every morning I walk through the door and I look up a little bit to my left, and on the wall it reads, "Our dream is a world free of poverty." A year after I took, thank you. Just almost exactly a year ago, about 9 months into my tenure, I kept asking my board is the 188 nation states that are members of the World Bank. And if you think you have difficult boards, 188 member nations will give you pause. But this group of governors gave us the great gift of establishing a deadline for the end of poverty. We committed ourselves to ending extreme poverty in the world by 2030, a little more than 15 years from today. Extreme poverty means that people live on less than $1.25 a day. And unfortunately, we live in a world where there are still more than 1 billion people who live in that condition. Now, when your board gives you a goal like that, how do you start? Where do you go? Well, I'm here to tell you that you start exactly the way Project Home has started and has worked. You do it one person at a time, you do it one family at a time, one community, one city, and one nation state at a time. The thing that impresses me so much about Project Home is that they were unafraid to set almost outrageously difficult goals, ending homelessness in Philadelphia, and through it, beginning the job of ending homelessness in the United States, and I hope, Sister Mary and Joan, in the world as well. Now, I had the fantastic experience recently of having an audience with Pope Francis. It's one of the perks of this job. You get to meet really great people. So I went there and I walked through door after door. It's the term enclave actually comes from the Vatican. And it felt like either I was in someplace very special or I was in a Get Smart movie, you know, walking through doors. One of the attendants said to me, leaned over and said, "Look at the crosses that all of the people here are wearing." And I looked at them, and not having been there before, I didn't know the difference. They had all gone from being gold to being metal. And it was part of the humility that Pope Francis had brought. Now, so when I got in the room, I have spent years working in Peru, so I speak Spanish. And so I started greeting him, and we started talking. Of course, I started off by saying that, you know, Your Eminence, you really should consider going to Philadelphia in 2015. There are these two women, Sister Mary and Joan, that you just got to meet. Actually, we talked about ending poverty in the world. And I spoke with him about my work in the slums of Lima, Peru, where I was part of a group that was run by the Society of St. James, a missionary society of diocesan priests. And I told him that it was there that I learned the notion of making a preferential option for the poor. And what he said to me was, "That's my philosophy. That's what I do." The Pope visited a homeless shelter in Brazil called Dona de Maria. And here's what he said about the work of reaching out to homeless people. He said, "To love God and neighbor is not something abstract, but profoundly concrete. It means seeing in every person and face the Lord to be served, to serve him concretely. And you, our dear brothers and sisters, are the face of Jesus." You know, when the Pope is on your side, and when you set a goal like the end of poverty, you have to start thinking hard about who are the people who can help you do this. And this is why I'm so excited about being here, seeing this community, because I finally understand why John and Lee made such a big commitment to Project Home. John and Lee and I have known each other now for about 5 years. And I can't tell you, there are no two people in the world that I admire more. And they kept telling me about Project Home, and I didn't quite get it, but now I do. Because John and Lee ask very simple questions when they see anyone who's trying to do good work. They say, 1, do you have heart? 2, do you have grit? 3, are you committed? 4, do you use scientific evidence and data to improve the work that you do? You see, the thing that John and Lee understand is that it's not enough just to feel compassion. It's not enough to want to do the right thing. You've got to actually know if you're making a difference. And if you're not, you've got to rethink, look for other inspirations, find better ways of doing it, and keep going at it, because the point is not your generosity. The point is what you actually accomplish on the ground. You know, John helped me. When I was at Dartmouth, John helped me to develop an idea that we're now calling the science of delivery around social goals. Because the question I asked John is, why is it that when it comes to our most cherished social goals, health, education, fighting homelessness, for example, why is it that when it comes to our most cherished social goals, we execute so poorly? Why is it that sometimes poor execution is not only tolerated, it's celebrated? We're good-hearted people. We don't know what our budget is, we don't know what we're getting, but my goodness, we're on the right side. We shared a deep impatience with that kind of soft-headed thinking, and I can see in the eyes of Sister Mary and Joan the intensity, the grit, the determination to get things done. John and Lee are the new face of philanthropy and global citizenship going forward. We cannot afford to let our good intentions be ruined by poor execution. And to have two people who are so generous focusing on that is such a gift to all of us. You know, you're learning now more about what John and Lee have done, but I can tell you that you're only seeing a small proportion of what they actually do. You look around the world and you see these generous anonymous gifts. Chances are John and Lee are behind at least a good number of them. Let me leave you with one thought before we go to the video about John and Lee. Dr. Martin Luther King, one of my heroes, used to say, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." But what he didn't say, but what we know from his life, is that he spent his life grabbing onto that arc of the moral universe and bending it with everything he had toward justice. That's what Sister Mary and Joan have done, and that's what my good friends Lee and John Middleton have been doing and will always do. John and Lee, thank you so much.